Physical media is going away. At least that's what we have seen with Sony, that they have just announced that in 2028 there is going to be no more PlayStation games physical discs. What an end of an era it is. And it seems kind of interesting too, because again, we've all known that GTA 6 is coming out, and with pre-orders have just dropped, that there's going to be no physical disc for those pre-orders, but they'll give you the case. But guess what? This is the kicker, guys. Rockstar Games is like, we'll give you a physical copy, but a digital code inside for your console game. No matter if you're on Xbox, no matter if you're on PlayStation, they don't care. It's just going to be straight digital code only, which is, you know, me growing up in the early 2000s, starting on PlayStation 2 mostly, actual home console, and then of course the Wii. Go into GameStop, getting store credit to trade in whatever games you wanted to trade in. We always have those like stores that like collect vintage retro video games, from Game Boys to DS games. Coming home on a car ride after going to the mall, going to GameStop, and just looking at that physical disc in hand and like reading the back of it, the front of it, opening it up to read the manual inside. You know, there's like something you just cannot replace with that memory. PSP to the Wii to the Xbox, original Xbox to like whatever, you know, like whatever console. It's just physical media, man. It's been around with us forever. And then with Sony now announcing that in January 2028, basically applies to all PlayStation games released from that point on, including those made by Sony and released by third parties. That change will be a natural direction for Sony's interactive entertainment to adapt to customer trends, as the general preference for digital media significantly outpaces physical discs, according to PlayStation blog post reviewed by a GameFile in advance of its public. I mean, we've had digital for a while now. I mean, it's nothing new. It makes sense at in the moment of why they're doing this, because they're like, okay, we can save money on printing physical disc when we could just do everything digitally. But to see the downside to this now, it's like music and any other digitalized source of art, media, whatever it may be. If you don't physically own it, they could basically say, yeah, you may own this game digitally, but we're gonna basically take away your access of being able to play it. And I think a good example of this is for Steam users or PC users when it came to doing the original GTA 3, GTA San Andreas, and Vice City. I remember that day like it was yesterday when they took those original games off of Steam. Rockstar literally took off the best original GTA games and gave us a shitty remastered, and then decided to say, let's charge $60 for these games. Why not? And we all know how those releases went. It was pretty garbage, I'd say. And again, that's just a good example of like, I'd say recent, of like where video game publishers or licensing issues, or just for some reason they just unlist it from the Steam market digitally, or Sony PlayStation's market, or Xbox, you know, Microsoft Store or whatever. And it's like the good thing about Lisa, like with owning a physical disc and still having an old console that still works, and you just disc in the drive and boom, you can play anytime, no matter how many years later down the road. You don't have to worry about a licensing saying, oh, just kidding, you won't be able to play this game anymore. Guess what? You just basically are purchasing for the licensing end of it and the fair use of being able to access it. And it's like, it's just gonna be interesting to see, like, okay, yeah, where's this all gonna go? Obviously digital, that's the answer. Fate of game boxes is gonna be unknown, you know. Will this make old game values go up in value, because they're not gonna basically sell any more physical copies, and say you restrict that access? And you know, there are people that go to third-party websites in order to get their games. Sony's timeline for this transition to a no-disc era will also spin up more speculation about timing and configuration of Sony's next-generation consoles, which will be the PlayStation 6, obviously. And that pretty much are guaranteeing that PS6 will not arrive in 2028, and when it does come, it's going to have no disc. So it's going to be interesting, because it might not support internal or external disc drives in order to run disc-based PS4 or PS5 games. So like, again, backwards compatibility comes into play, because it's like, well, then you're going to have to basically optimize that game for that new system. It's same like with PC ports of old games from consoles exclusives, and you got to port it to a system, whatever console, and make sure it can actually function right. There's even a graph of like the rise of digital purchased PlayStation games, a percentage of the full games sold on PS4 and PS5 that consumers bought as downloads instead of disc. And really, like in 2016, 2017, it was only about 27 to 32%. And you saw a big jump during COVID, because gaming really popped then, because everybody's at home doing nothing. So from 2019, it was 51% to 65%. Ever since 2020 up to 2025, it's a jump of 65 to 78%. So of course, you know, these big companies are like, well, we're saving money on not having to print out physical copies anymore, so let's just keep it digital. And maybe 10 years from now, people will get bored of these games that they own on their system, and we could just remove them and remove their access, hypothetically speaking. And it's gonna be interesting. Obviously, Xbox and probably Nintendo are gonna follow suit. You know, all it takes is one company to follow it. Nintendo Switch 2, which uses cartridges, rather than disc, introduced the concept of game key cards, which are physical media that contain no game, just a prompt for a download. Again, digital. Everything. Even disc-based games aren't what they once were, now frequently containing just stubs of games rather than the whole thing. The website Does It Play has tested over 3,000 games and found that, for example, that disc versions of this year's hits, like 007 First Light, only contain these games' first missions, with the rest needing to be downloaded. Speaking about this on July 1st, this all came out today. Everybody's like going crazy. I've seen all the Instagram reels, short videos on it, YouTube videos are already out there, people. I'm just another person adding to the conversation. But it's just like, I guess for me and my generation, growing up in the early 2000s and coming home in that car ride of having a new disc, I still have a lot of my physical game disc, even from Xbox One, some Xbox 360 games, PlayStation 2 games, PlayStation 3 games, UMD cards for PSP, just like and Nintendo DS games as well, 3D DS games. It's just like, you can't beat those. I know I may be talking on a nostalgic purpose, and everybody's like, well, this is the new era. We have AI now. We have digital everything. We all seen what Rockstar did with the old GTA classic games for digital purposes only, not saying CD games. Rockstar hasn't revoked access to those people that bought the old GTA 3, Vice City, or San Andreas, because I still have access to it, and I can still play those original games and not the shitty remasters that they released. But this is interesting. It's going to be interesting to see where all this goes. But for me personally, I like physical media. I have vinyls, I have photo books, I do film photography. I like that physical. It's like the physical media end of it is, obviously I guess that's what I grew up with, but it's like, do you really own something? It's not physically in your hands and you can access it at any time, or are you just paying for that borrowed time of that digital license that the big publisher can say, you know what, you don't have access to this anymore, but thanks for playing, and thanks for your $60 or $70 or $80 or $100, whatever the game costs now. Old video games that you can't no longer access, or even some games that may not be able to be ported over to PC. It's just an interesting thing that Sony decided to do this right as GTA 6 was doing it, seeing that, oh, well, if Rockstar Games can make all this money without having to print out physical copies of the games, we might as well follow suit. And then trust me, every other company, Nintendo, Xbox, will follow suit. But that's my yap for today. Physical media seems to be fading out, which is sad to say, but time will tell. Let me know your thoughts down below, and who's ready for GTA 6, guys? Woo-woo. Thanks for watching, and I guess time will tell to see what Sony does from here now on out.